what was the pivotal point then that potentially in your life that, or was it a person or pivotal point that made a shift for you? So you started to see things different, and you knew, because I too, it sounds like we had very, very similar mirrors going on, where there was some strong similarities of things that we've been through. So what was that point that kind of changed it for you?
You know, you know what? One of the things I'll say for me, I knew who my father was. I had a great dad. He didn't live in South Carolina. He lived in California, and he called for me for a couple of summers. So when I was able to leave South Carolina and go to Los Angeles, I flew on a plane for the first time. I got in a different environment for the first time. I saw, a man go to work and just have a kind of regular everyday life. My dad had a car, he had an apartment, and overall he was a good guy. So it became a point where I was able to see two different versions of life. Now, up until for many years, I only saw one version, and that was the version of Sumter, people wild, doing things irate, stealing. I mean, robbing people. I used to go in my next door neighbor house and steal from him because he drove the snack truck. So he always had honey buns laying around, candy bars laying around, money. So we go over there, man, go in the back door, take $1 bills, slide all the change off the dresser, grab a couple honey buns, and be back out the back door. So when I saw my dad being kind of this stand-up guy, then I started thinking, well, man, I wonder if I could, actually get like a regular job and do some of the things that normal adults do. But before I kind of ventured down that road, I had to still get my hands on that crack cocaine, because everything that I saw that went along with that, I still felt like, man, that's a great life, because I saw the money and I saw what it would do, what it was doing for people, even in something in the hood. So, I went down, saved up my little money, and got out there and got on the street. And it didn't take me long to figure out that was not going to be the life for me, because I had something to compare it to. So I always say the turning point for me was spending time with my dad, because if I never saw that life and never saw him, kind of being a stand-up man with a job, and I'd only seen what I saw growing up with all the guys around me, fighting, selling dope, even the house we lived in burned down, and things like that, then I wouldn't have anything to compare it to. So once I had a barometer, I was smart enough to figure out, okay, you going about this, the wrong way. You really gonna end up, either dead or in jail for real.
See, and I think the resource and the access to opportunities. So even for me, I know that when I was home, and I grew up in the projects in Rochester here, I grew up in some of the worst areas. I saw my experiences were similar to your experience of what we saw, what we went through. I lived next door to the crack house, right?
Yeah.
So, and my stepfather was addicted to crack. So, like, our stuff would also be missing,
Yep.
and it could be next door. And so, when I think about all of that, some of what changed or my ability to want different was my grandparents. See, my grandparents, they lived a little bit of a different life. They lived a more of a middle class life, and they lived in a decent area, but I saw a different structure. And then what they shared or poured into was made me want a little bit different. And I guess what is hard for me is that it was a blessing, but it also is, there's some of our kids don't have those opportunities or resources to see something different. And so I was hungry for something different. Like, I just knew from an early age, because of them, that I wanted to live more like them and exceed that lifestyle than I did want to live how I was living, but seeing it. And, it struck a
Mhm.
nerve when you just said that, because it was completely that I was able to see that. And I know a lot of kids don't have that, or have that resource. And it's like, how do we work towards changing that, or being the resource that they need, and and be like your dad, like my grandparents, and help them be that pivotal point. Because one of the things that I'm worried about is that so many, all of our kids, but specifically our Black males, are stuck. And so why do you think they're so stuck?
You know what? And a part of it really is two parts to that, in my personal opinion. The first part is the whole father situation. You know, a lot of us are growing up single parent homes, you know, without dad. Dad is a major influence, man. And we don't have to go through all the, you know, the research has already been done, right? The second piece of that to me is exposure, because I can say that for a fact. I grew up, you know, in a house. I had siblings. I had other people around me. I had my own friends, you know, who were connected to me, you know, in different capacities. And when I look at all the common threads of people who were quote unquote found some sort of success, and not necessarily, you know, money and homes, but graduated from high school, went on to live, you know, a good life, was able to sustain themselves, take care of themselves, whether it's plant workers, but I mean, they have regular routine jobs and just able to live a good quality of life. And when I look at what that was, those two things were always present. It was a father figure of some sort, and it was exposure. And that's why, you know, I'm real big on getting out of, you know, getting out of your environment, getting out of the spot that you're, you know, where you currently are, seeing different things, doing different things, because when you are exposed to those different things, it opens your mind, just like reading, you know, reading a book, which is the other thing that I'm passionate about. Reading, we got to read more. We got to get these students, you know, reading more. We got to get these kids more engaged, and we got to get them exposed, especially this COVID generation that was not exposed for so long because they were at home, they were inside, they were doing everything, you know, virtual via computer. We have to get back to, you know, those regular field trips, getting kids out, letting them see stuff, touch it, taste it, because everybody learned differently. And even though my father, you know, I was able to kind of to watch him, and seeing him is what made a difference. It was never what he said. It was never, you know, what he told me over the phone. It was never, you know, what he said verbally, but seeing him in his environment, moving to his own beat and kind of doing his own thing, I was exposed to something different. And the fact that I was on the West Coast. So I'm all the way in California versus South Carolina. I'm in a whole different land, learning about gang banging and Sherm and how they do stuff, you know, on their coast. Even that still was a lesson, you know, in life. And I was like, man, I definitely don't want any of this. This is so different, you know, from what we do at home. I mean, these guys, when they jump somebody, it's like 20 people, you know, it just was very different. So, you know, the things that you learn and things that you expose to, just, it makes a huge difference. And I think even going into my senior year of high school, a lot of people said what to do, and a lot of people told you what to do. But I had one person that came into my life that showed me what to do. Right. And that's what makes a difference, you know, for our young people as well. It's a lot different when you tell somebody something and versus showing. And, you know, that was another pivotal moment really in my life, because I'm in the 12th grade. This guy walks into my classroom, Anthony Graham. I never seen him before, never talked to him before. I didn't know his name, didn't know where he was from. I did not have any type of mentors, you know, really, you know, that was working with me on a regular basis, like officially. But I was around some good men from time to time, but I didn't really have, you know, an official mentor. This guy walks in, and for whatever reason, he came in to give my teacher a package. And as he walked out, he stopped dead in his tracks, and he turned and he looked at me and he said, "You, come here." And I'm looking around the whole class like, well, I know you're talking to me because I don't even know. I don't even, like we said, I don't even know Buddy. I know Buddy ain't talking to me for what? And he said, "No, you." And I was like, well, clearly this guy's talking to me. So I get up, I go over to him, and he asked me, he said, "What's your name?" I tell him. "What's your mama name?" I tell him. "Where you from?" "I'm from here." And then he asked me that question: "What are you going to do when you graduate from high school?" And I was like, man, you know, I don't know. I said, man, I ain't going to college. Because I could tell he was gearing up to say that, right? And I was like, I ain't going to college, man. I said, I already know what you're getting ready to say. He kind of leaned back, crossed his arms, you know. He said, okay. He said, you know what? That's cool. I get it. He said, well, I'll tell you what. I got a trip taking place in a couple of weeks, and I would love for you to come and be on it. He said, we're going to leave in the morning. It's going to be a day out of school, and we're going to come back. That's all he said. We're going to leave in the morning. It's going to be a day out of school, and we're going to come back. And I asked him 2 questions. I said, is there going to be food? And he said, yes. And I said, is there going to be girls? And he said, yes. And I said, you know what? I'll be there. Now, we didn't ask him. I didn't ask him, where we going? What are we going to do?
Did y'all get a permission slip signed?
Man, we all going to be there. Hey, food and girls, a day out of school, I don't care where we going. He could took us to the zoo. We could have been picking up trash, litter, clean up. It didn't matter. Right. Food, girls, out of school. I'm like, all these 3 things line up for my life perfectly, right? So we get up there to the school. He got a big, huge, extra long bus, and he packed about 25 boys on it. We start driving, and this bus ends up taking us. We doze off to sleep. We wake up, and we see the big sign that says South Carolina State University. Everybody on the bus fell out. Oh, man. Oh, bro. Man, we ain't going to no college, man. It's crazy, man. We told you.
Right.
The bus turns on the campus, and I'll never forget, I'm sitting on that left-hand side of the bus, and I put both my hands to the window, and I look out, and I see all these people that look like me. And immediately, I knew. I said, I'm coming here. That's it. It took me being on a college campus for about 2 minutes. I hadn't talked to nobody. I hadn't seen the whole school, nothing. All I knew was these guys look just like me. And if they're here and they look like they're doing some positive stuff, they're not selling dope, they're not fighting, they're not wilding out, they look good. I see myself in these people. I was like, man, this is it. Because I don't have no other plan. I'm going to stay home and sleep in the bed. My mama sleep on the floor some days, stay out all times of night, stealing out of grocery store. I'm like, this looks like a better alternative, even though I didn't really know what the opportunity was. It felt like it was going to be right. And again, when I talk about getting yourself out of one environment, putting yourself into another environment, I talk about having exposure and being exposed to different things, and not just being told, but being shown what to do. Big difference, big difference.